or the inconscience with which it started. Its business first was to create a conscious center of experience, a subjective being which could act as a point of receiving the whole universe. Having created that in the life, in the mind when it came, it forced this mind to go back, reverse the process of individualizing into a necessity of accepting general, collective, life, need for interchange, need for exchange, need for others in order to fulfill oneself. That is what the process of nature does when it evolves from the inconscience of matter. Life begins with inconscience of matter, develops half conscient, half mental life, and evolves into or emerges into full mentality. When it emerges into full mentality, it reverses the process. And it reverses the process by compelling the individual, the ego, to expand, to merge into the other being, this is creating there the compulsion in a certain sense of merging into other beings. Well, that far we had seen, and then the full fulfillment of it would lie in ascending to beyond the region of mind where the law which operated and created this reversal would reach again a next step of its ascent, so to say, or next step of its reversal. Mind, and then from mind, a reversal to the necessity of collective life drives the individual from egocentricity into universality, which must ultimately culminate into a truth consciousness. Because universal consciousness is not the whole truth of the omnipresent reality. Universal consciousness is only one term of it. And as a mental universal consciousness, not a pure consciousness of universality, it is it has a double strain of knowledge and ignorance. When you say universal consciousness, it is not as it were you are dealing with pure spiritual universal consciousness, but you are dealing with a universal consciousness with mind as its dominating instrument. Well, in that case, that universal consciousness itself is not perfect. It has double movement of vidya and avidya, knowledge and ignorance in it. And therefore, fulfillment of this impulse to realize complete unity would come only if one could go beyond the formula of mind as an essential element of manifestation. That is what we did yesterday. Now, today, we take up this problem of life. Now, life is, we have seen, a conscious action of Satchidananda. That is how we have looked at life. That is just a central circumstance of this manifestation of Satchidananda as manifesting itself as life. The element of the infinite that is behind life is consciousness force or conscious force of Satchidananda. The being becomes basis of existence, reducing itself to matter. Sat becomes, when it reduces itself to cosmic terms, or reduces itself to what we feel as matter, as base of materials. Consciousness force becomes what we understand or what we know or cognize as life. Supermind becomes what we cognize as mind. Ananda or delight becomes, well, what we have within us, the principle of psychic being. Well, that will give you a correspondence. In a certain sense, I think it's necessary to make it a little clear. These three are of the three eternal supernal, so eternal. And its instrument of action is the truth consciousness, the supermind of truth consciousness. It is this instrument between, or by becoming which this omnipresent reality creates the world. So these four are the terms in knowledge. This is the realm of infinity and knowledge, therefore, or world of truth, if you like to call it. You see, and to each, in this lower triplicity of manifested or evolved universe, or evolutionary universe, to such corresponds matter. The chit tapas means conscious force or consciousness force, Because consciousness has two aspects of will and knowledge. Remember, this has two aspects of knowledge and will. This manifests itself as life. And this truth consciousness becomes your mind. And this Ananda becomes here the psychic being. That gives you a rough correspondence of the whole scale. How the world of truth, world of infinity, omnipresent reality is related to the present manifested universe. There is the principle of being which becomes, when it is completely covered up, becomes matter. Complete in conscience, complete existence. Chit is conscious force which is aspect of knowledge and conscious and power, two together, knowledge and will. This aspect that you see here, it is called consciousness force. He calls it consciousness force or conscious force, if you like. You see? Consciousness force. Because it combines within itself two aspects, knowledge and will. Second, which is life, manifested here in the universe as life. And the third principle, Ananda, is manifested here as the psychic being. Psychic plane of consciousness, psychic existence, and existence of psychic beings. The true individuality in man is the individuality of delight. It is the delight aspect that is the cause of the universe, cause of continuation, cause of its manifestation, and it will be the driving force for realization. This divine, the delight aspect. That is why the whole of creation is moving towards realization in delight. And truth consciousness manifested as supermind, he calls it also the life divine. This is what he calls the supermind. So he uses the double term. Truth conscious supermind becomes mind, a secondary operation of the principle of knowledge. So that the divine creates the world not out of any compulsion, but out of self vision of the internal and the infinite, in which the self-awareness of the Supreme throws itself out into truth consciousness, because the vision of the Supreme cannot be mixture of truth and falsehood, or cannot be ignorant, or cannot be compelled, cannot be necessitated. It is a automatic self movement or self-determination of the Supreme that first takes the form of truth consciousness, in which the whole totality of the universe exists as a seed, where infinity is the basis and multiplicity is the variation on the basis of that unity. So that all that is here exists there without losing the basis of infinity and unity. Unity remains, infinity remains, and yet there is a variation and a differentiation based upon that unity. That is the world of truth consciousness. And as a secondary operation, when it creates or turns towards this creation further and further, it adopts the constitution of mind, which first it is the universal mind which comes into being. Remember, it is not individual mind that comes into being first. Universality of mind comes into operation. And then begins the principle of division. From mind begins the principle of division. Then only the creation of a limited individuality or a separate ego becomes possible. It goes on hiding or veiling its light more and more, till when it comes to matter, this very process coming to life creates a universal life. You see? Universal life. This operation here is universal mind, universal life, and universal matter. And out of this universal matter, there is an evolution. Further up, that is the ascent. In the ascent, this drive of universal mind creates a conscious entity, a conscious being, and that becomes the beginning of ego. That becomes the rise of ego. And that begins to again ascend from matter to life, to mind, to supermind. To the process is reversed when life has reached that point. When life has reached the point of creating a conscious center of subjectivity and ego on the basis of matter and life, then the process is reversed and goes back to gradually to the truth consciousness. Well, we are now at a point where central circumstance of this process is the cosmos. Process of this Satchidananda here, I will take only the second term. The second term, conscious existence, because that is what we are considering now. separate. It's not really separate. Satchidananda are not three things. They are, triple. If you admit infinity like that, then it will have triple aspect of it. One is A, B, C. But A, B, C is nothing else but the infinite. Just the Satchidananda. That's how you will have to look at it, you see. So I take this just for the sake of clarity. Conscious being, you see. Now this conscious being or conscious power has become life. And it is this aspect of it which we are considering. You see? We have already considered the knowledge aspect of it. Now, of the be conscious aspect, we are taking up life. This life is force of Satchidananda. Consciousness, that is the force of Satchidananda, putting forth life under cosmic conditions. It becomes life when it comes after the cosmic mind. And in this cosmic process in which life manifests, you get the operation of the dividing consciousness of mind because it has come after mind. The first projection was universal mind, and second projection is universal life. This life that has come into existence is subjected to the operation of universal mind. Therefore, a dividing faculty is already at work when life comes into existence. When universal life manifests, the faculty of division is already at work. Mind is the divided action of a force which itself is undivided. Truth consciousness, supermind. And this undivided force creates dualities, creates oppositions, creates denials of Satchidananda and its nature. Because of division, the nature of Satchidananda is denied, opposed by creation of duality, both in mind and in life. In mind there is a duality, in life there is a duality. Mental duality of one type, vital duality or life duality take another form or another out. Therefore, we have a world of division and clash, is it not? We have here, therefore, this life world is a world of clash because of division and opposition. It becomes a world of clash. It takes the appearance of a world of clash, which to the beings inside is real. It's not an imaginary clash. And the problem to solve, therefore is to find out how behind this clash we have to seek, search out, or create, or make emerge the unity and infinity and delight. Behind this world of clash, how to create, or is there, first of all, the play of this truth, play of the omnipresent reality, play of the divine, or play of Satchidananda? That is a problem to find out whether there is a play of unity behind apparent clash, division, and duality which we find rampant in the world, which is a world of projection of Satchidananda's conscious force under the conditions of universal manifestation, under the condition of the universe. The conscious, infinite, and self-existent, self-conscious force of Satchidananda takes us the form of life in universe, and that life wears the aspect of division, separation, conflict, and struggle. Now, what is how to restore the truth? Is there a truth that is working, and is it possible to realize the aspect of truth consciousness and supramental truth consciousness here in life? Well, that is the problem, and solution has to be sought by not our mind alone. The solution of this problem of division, duality, and clash is not a mental solution, but solution in life. Mind can isolate itself, isolate the problem, and seek an independent solution on the basis of mind only. And mind can say, all this struggle is unreal. I retire into myself when I face this struggle, and mind can deny. The problem and solution is not only to be solved on the basis of intellect or mind, but has to be solved on the basis of life. Solution is to be sought by the mind and not by mind alone, but solution is to be sought by life. Consciousness as a force created this world movement and its problem. Therefore, consciousness and as force must solve it. Life and its problems are created by consciousness, Chit Shakti, will and knowledge of the Supreme. Well, consciousness working in life must solve it, not working as mind. It is life that must seek solution of its problem and not intellect and mind only. You see? Yes, because the problem is set in life. Life has the appearance first in matter, the material appearance, a vital field, and a mental field. In the mind, the consciousness is delivered from the slavery to the outer form in the mind, you see. And it is freed also from its own limitation of form because mind can be quite free from the limitations of life and body. The difficulty and the crux of the difficulty is here that man is a mental being and a mental consciousness, and as a mental being and as a mental consciousness, he is aware of a universal force. He is aware of a universal force, of a universal life, and then he knows that he is only a part of it. And it does not know that he himself is universal. This is the knot of the difficulty, you understand? There is a mind at work, and this mind comes in contact with energy or consciousness all around and knows that there is a cosmic and universal energy at work, universal life at work. It is not conscious of its own universality. Therefore, it is unable to deal with the general life and his own life effectively because he doesn't know his own universality. Therefore, he can't deal effectively with his own individual problem of ignorance or incompleteness or imperfection and cannot deal with the general problem. Mind certainly drives man to know himself also. First, it drives man to know matter. It drives man to know life. Mind wants to know matter. Mind wants and tries to understand life. Mind wants to understand man himself. Yes. And this effort to know that you find in the mind is the will of the Satchidananda, is the will of the Supreme working in him for self-restoration. The impulse to know is the operation of the secret urge of Satchidananda because it's urging it to move to know its own self. It is trying to have self-knowledge because it has lost that self-awareness since having created the world and becoming an individual center of expression on the point of matter and life and mind. Having sunk into the ego, it has lost the connection between the all, the infinite, the eternal, and has become confined into the realm of the ego. Well, implanted into this ego mentality is the impulse to know matter, to know life, to know man, to know mind. Well, this impulse itself is an operation of the secret will of Satchidananda, really speaking, in man. Appearing as an individual in the world, the Satchidananda appeared in the world as an individual. And therefore, it is putting the secret will into the individual and the world, which he expresses himself. And yet he seems to deny himself there in the world. He has created the world and become an individual. Well, having become an individual, he finds that he himself is denying himself. Yes, that's it. And therefore, the will that is put in him to know is the process or the nodus of energy by which he will be able to come back to himself. You see? Yes. Man has to satisfy this and evolve to this divine humanity or create another being out of him. If he pleads himself incapable Well, some other being must emerge out of him. Man may become obsolete and some other being may take place. But this has to happen. Restoration of the lost identity with the Supreme must be restored in terms of matter, in life which is manifested in earth consciousness. Not there. There it is already attained. Their attainment of unity is not to be not to be realized, so to say, experience. It is there self-existent. It is here where it doesn't exist, the problem also exists. There where the problem doesn't exist, there is no point in saying that we solve the problem where the problem doesn't exist. That's what the Vedantins tell us, you see. We go back to the Sachidananda and therefore no problem exists. But then in the Sachidananda, no problem ever existed. And the solution has to be sought here where the problem exists. Well, he has to evolve either to a divine humanity or give place to some being which will be able to embody the truth consciousness in himself. To find the self contained in the seed of its birth. Now, that is another equation which he wants to give, and I think that is a very fine thing that you find if you observe life. In life, what you find is that consciousness, there is a correspondence between consciousness and force. Consciousness and force are proportional to each other in life. If there is infinite consciousness, the force at the disposal of infinite consciousness will be also infinite. If there is consciousness is submerged in matter or in inconscience, well, so also the force will be also inconscient. Force also will be inconscient. If the consciousness is divided, if the consciousness is infinite, the force will be infinite. Consciousness is submerged, the force will be submerged. If consciousness is divided, well, the force also will be divided. And if the consciousness raises to a plane of unity in the midst of life and also to diversity, then the force will also be correspondingly capable of handling unity and diversity. Force that can manage unity and diversity also will be there. So in life, consciousness has a correspondence to a force. They are all proportional. Therefore, when some sadhak is telling that, oh, when we are doing sadhana, how can we do? But you see, the consciousness will have a corresponding force. And if you depend upon a consciousness which is infinite, you will get an infinite force to support you. You understand the point is, you understand now there is a correspondence between consciousness and its force. Yes. If consciousness is infinite, force will be infinite. Consciousness is divided, force will be divided. Well, consciousness is one that is submerged in matter, well, force also will be inconscient and you won't see it. Well, if consciousness is one that can deal with unity and diversity at the same time, well, you will have power which deals with unity and diversity at the same time. Because there is a correspondence between consciousness and the force which it has. When you surrender to a higher consciousness, to an omnipotent, omniscient force or reality, then the force of that consciousness will work in you. You understand? Very simple in one sense. Yes, you are an individual, you are in a divided consciousness. Therefore, your force is here. This is the force you have. In a divided consciousness, egoistic force, and you aspire from here. Then you appeal to this divine consciousness. Then the divine force will work here. Is it not? You are here in a divided consciousness. Man is divided consciousness, ignorance. He, by aspiration, opens to this infinite consciousness, divine, omnipresent reality, and appeals to that infinite consciousness to work in him. Well, infinite consciousness got infinite force. Therefore, the infinite force works in reply. It's quite almost self-evident. No, look at that. It goes. You see, the correspondence is here. The force working here. So, therefore, when one has great defects or difficulties, he shouldn't think that I can't remove because you are not going to remove. You are only wanting to remove. Yes, you will to remove. You will wish to remove. You will aspire to remove. And then call in your own sincerity will be one factor, but the consciousness which you evoke will be another factor. And it is a more powerful factor because the force is infinite. Well, there you are, some things. You get some part of sadhana in philosophy even. Yeah. Now, man's present life is a divided consciousness, you see. Now, here you find in the second, the force is separated from consciousness. You see here, force and consciousness are separated here. In matter, the force and consciousness are separated. Force seems to be completely isolated from consciousness. In the third, means in the divided consciousness, man is at present situated and he is able to see the problem. It is only when he rises to the fourth, the plane of unity and diversity coexistent, that his problem of life can be solved. When from the divided consciousness he rises to a consciousness in which unity and diversity coexist without losing contact with the infinity of the truths or truth consciousness, well, then the problem of life, which is the problem of division, struggle, and opposition, aspect of duality, will be completely solved. Their life consciously will obey the law of unity. In the fourth, life will consciously obey the law of unity and yet will fulfill each thing in its own diversity. That's how the overcoming of the limit of mental consciousness will operate. Individuals live in themselves. There, the individual, when he rises to this unity and diversity simultaneously existing and working, individuals will live in themselves and each in other as one consciousness and one being in many souls, one power in many minds. That is how it will feel when it rises to the fourth, unity and diversity coexistent without losing its contact with the infinity of the truth. And three difficulties present themselves in this process of rise from the third to the fourth. From the third divided consciousness to go to the undivided consciousness in which unity and diversity coexist, there are three difficulties. And we will make that also clear. The difficulty of rising from the third to the fourth. Man is in the third divided consciousness. So from the third to go to the fourth consciousness, there are three difficulties. One difficulty is that he knows or knowledge of partial self or knowledge of well, incomplete knowledge, you can say incomplete knowledge of self. You put this incomplete here. Incomplete knowledge of self. That is to say, he is only living on surface consciousness, you see. He knows only surface consciousness and is unconscious of, well, you can say his subconscious and subliminal being. Both are not the same. Subconscious and subliminal. He is not conscious of this. He is only conscious of a surface. Below the surface, there is, and behind the veil, there is subconscious and subliminal of which he is not conscious. That is one difficulty. Why man is not able easily and spontaneously without making a conscious effort to rise from third to the fourth. From the third divided consciousness to go into a truth consciousness in which the operation of unity and diversity exists at the same time, why man is not naturally able to do it? Because he is not fully conscious even of what he is. of his present constitution. He is only conscious of his surface consciousness. He doesn't know the subconscious and the subliminal which is behind. Operation of mind behind the outer mind, of life behind outer life, and of impulses that come from the subconscious. He is not conscious. That is one difficulty why he is not able spontaneously to move. That is one. Second difficulty is this formula of mind plus life and body. This is separated from universal life. This is separated from universal life or universal being. You see? Man's mind, life, and body, or man's mental, vital, and physical being, which is isolated or completely separated from the universal. First, he doesn't know fully himself. One, he is not conscious of the whole range of his being. Second, he is cut off from the cosmic universal consciousness which surrounds him. So he is separated from the universal consciousness and identity with his. Therefore, he doesn't can't know his identity with his fellow man even, not with nature. Forget all about universal, but he doesn't know his identity with his own fellow creature. He feels them separate. Well, it is because he is isolated from the universal. If he lived in the universal being, he would be able to at least feel his identity with all, at least of mental beings. If not with the animal kingdom and the vegetable and the earth, he would feel at least his identity with his fellow men, which he doesn't do because he is cut off from the universal. Therefore, he feels that all that has manifested on the plane of mind is also separated and isolated. Well, the third difficulty is division between fourth and consciousness that has taken place in him. The third difficulty is division between force and consciousness. Division between force and consciousness. That is to say, I must rub that out. Force and consciousness, for instance, mind. Well, is mind versus body. Mental consciousness, body consciousness. Mental force, body force. You see, then you say life versus mind and body. The body, well, no. Yes, war of members, in fact. That is the division between force and consciousness because you can say want of harmony of instruments, you see, and therefore the force is divided. Mind wants to do something, the emotional being goes in another direction, the vital being goes in the third direction. So the whole force of man's consciousness is divided up. Consciousness is divided and force is divided. There is not a sort of a harmony in the operation of the consciousness of man because man is not an integrated being. He doesn't act as one, you know, as one organized and an integrated consciousness. He works as three or four divided persons working at the same time. These three difficulties will prevent the rise from the third status to the fourth status of truth consciousness, in which unity and diversity would play on the basis of the infinity of truth consciousness. Well, that prevents him from making the effort. It is by rising to this, you say that mind and body and fellow, you see the identity is not there when it is separated from the universe. In the second aspect of it, there also mere sympathy and love for others is not the same as identity with them. And what is intended and required is identity. That is why some of the philosophies always say that man is not a free agent. Partly there is great truth in it. Free agent in the sense that though there is a sense of mastery in him, there is a sense of somebody who can rule his nature in him. He is not actually ruling himself because he is first partially conscious of his being, quite unconscious of wide range of his own Constitution. He doesn't know his subconscious and his subliminal. Then he is separate from the universal. And then he is divided within himself. So these three or four factors being given to say that man is free, and people, man thinking that he is, I'm completely free. People talk always, I'm quite free, but they don't know what they mean by freedom because he is not free at all. You see, he is under the operation of nature, we'll say, and those schools of thought which say because his consciousness and force are not adequate to each other, are not proportional. He is not living in a unified consciousness and therefore capable of exerting a constant force. No, he is governed by nature, and it is nature that works in him and not that as if he was the ruler of nature and capable of taking the flow or current of nature energy towards the ascent or towards the fourth step, which if life reaches, then life will reach the solution of its problem. But if he is governed by nature as he is actually at present, he cannot manage to proceed, to the ascent. There is a Lord in him for mastery, but for that he must rise from this ignorant Maya to the creative Maya of the Supreme, to the Maya that brought the world, Satchidananda Maya. You see the power of the Satchidananda. If he rises to that, then for him the problem is easy to solve because then he will become one who can consciously govern his nature. But that problem of life can be solved only by life rising to that fourth status in which, as we said, unity and diversity coexist on the base of infinity. This division between force of nature and conscious being is all over nature. There is always a dichotomy and a sort of disproportion between force of nature and conscious being that holds the form of force of nature. Mental being, there is a mental person and there is a mental force. You will always watch if you carefully observe that the force that is working as mental energy is not the same as the conscious being he holds himself as a natural or mental person. The mental being, the subjective self, and mental power or mental energy or mental nature, there is always a discrepancy. Whatever the subjective being knows, nature does not always confirm. Whatever he wills, the nature does not necessarily carry out. In fact, very often it carries out just the opposite of what he wills. You see, there is no correspondence between conscious energy of nature or force of nature and conscious being that holds that nature as its form or as its mold. Do you understand? Yes, you hold mind as the form or mold for expression, but mental force or mental energy that is working, well, is not under the control, you can say, or is not proportionate to or does not run parallel with the constitution of the mental purusha, the watching self in mind. Watching self in mind, well, has one line of force. The nature force operating in mind has another way of operating, quite different. Mental, vital, and physical being. Mental nature, vital nature, physical nature. And the Purusha in each level, mental Purusha, vital Purusha, and the physical Purusha, means the subjective self. There is always a division in mind, life, and body. This is removed only on the level of the supermind. It's on the level of the truth consciousness that the conscious self and the power or force of nature are in agreement, in correspondence. So there is no divergence. Whatever is the constitution of the being, conscious being, a corresponding force is automatically available. Principle of perfection is therefore not in the mind, life, and body. It is in one sense, you see, perfection is in the subconscious, where a thing when you put from the top, it has always comes down. That nobody is required to govern. In the subconscious, there is a perfection of operation because there is no division yet they are made. You see, conscious division is not there. So an automatic operation which brings about the operation of the subconscious is there, but it is not conscious. In matter, laws operate without any intervention of anything and operate correctly without exception. It is above, not in the present poise of mentality or intellectuality, that power and knowledge will be reconciled. Consciousness and force of consciousness can be reconciled on the level above mind. That gives you the 22nd chapter, isn't it? Yes. Now take a part of 23rd chapter, which can take. In the 23rd chapter, we have got the subject of. Now take a part of 23rd chapter, which can take. In the 23rd chapter, we have got the subject of relation of the fourth that I was telling you about.
What is the chapter we just have?
This is the 22nd, is it not? Yeah. The 23rd is dealing with the. You see, we saw the infinity of being feels to us as triple, though really it is one. You see, we feel it as consciousness force or consciousness and delight. Up to now, we have dealt with this consciousness aspect as operating through supermind into world or into universe. And we have seen how it is connected with the need of return to the origin from which it has come. Now it is this delight aspect which we take up. You see, this delight aspect. This manifests in the lower, this manifests itself here at life. In the universe, it manifests itself as life. And this delight aspect of this triple truths or triple manifestation of effectiveness manifests itself as psychic being. Psychic being. And in this chapter, he is developing this subject as to how this delight of infinite self-existence, consciousness, and bliss translates itself into or comes into manifestation in the universe in which we live as psychic being, the true individuality behind human egoism. True divine spark of individuality operating behind the operation of mind, life, and body of man. That is the subject matter now we take up. It's not exactly one, but he's showing that this psychic being, when it works in man, takes up a double aspect. Takes up a double aspect. A part of it undergoes an operation of avidya, maya, the power of ignorance, and another part keeps back, keeps behind, independent and free. This is the subject matter. You see, we have seen that life, the first status of life, that requires a little clarification, I think. That doesn't make it clear. Otherwise, you get into a forest.
That's the word. Right here.
We see that in life, the first status of life is dumb, inconscient. First status. The second status of life is, we have seen that already, but just a little. It is rooted in desire. Status are rooted to desire, eagerness to possess, and so on. You see, limited incapacity, therefore, limited incapable, you can put it roughly. Limited incapacity. Third status opens into mind, and there the element of love begins to operate, and that opens out, so to say, like a bud here. This opens out like a bud. And its perfection can come only in the fourth by rising to a plane of conscious unity. Life has gone through these three, it is to go to the fourth one. Well, that is what you are roughly seeing. Because that aspect of love must become universal. And if it is to become universal, it will have to be free from limitation of mind. Yes, and therefore it must rise to the truth consciousness. Now, love universal. This consciousness of unity means this love itself will be freed from the limit of ego which is operating here, and this love will become love universal. Then the love universal decides psychic being. The true individuality in the human being well is seeking this universal delight with the result of universal love. The true individuality in man is not seeking necessarily fulfillment of the ego in terms of ego. What it is seeking is widening out into universality so as to contact the delight, ananda, of which it is a representative in ignorance. It is seeking for delight, and it is seeking for universal delight of Satchidananda, delight of the whole expression of cosmos. That is what it is really seeking. Now, here, there are stages of ascent of life, and you will see if you observe these four stages of which I spoke, that in the four stages, you will gradually see that life seems to begin from here in conscience. All movement is toward delight. All that movement is towards delight. The fundamental force which drives life to go through these stages, first, second, third, and possible stage of the fourth, is seeking for delight. Everything that exists wants to experience delight, wants to manifest delight and experience of delight. Well, you will see that the stages which we are in can be arranged in a sort of a hierarchy. You see, you can understand that it is this ascent of life is the ascent of the divine delight in things, from dumb conception in matter to its consummation in the spirit. Delight drives the material inconscience, from the material inconscience to the infinity of the spirit. World therefore is Satchidananda mask. It is wearing the mask of matter, mask of inconscience, mask of struggle, mask of animality, mask of vegetation, mask of human life, mask of clash, mask of group, mask of individual. World is Satchidananda masked. Life is his conscious force. And his conscious force, the secret of movement of this conscious force, which is life, and the secret of its movement must be delight. Secret of its movement, why does it move? Because it's seeking delight. It's delight. It is inherent in all things. If it is held back, if it meets its opposite, pain and suffering and evil in life, then life is never satisfied. Life does not take suffering and pain as if they were laws of life. It always contradicts and opposes and says no. So that whenever it meets its opposite, it never is satisfied, which again is indicating that delight is the drive and delight is the goal. See? Yes. To seek for delight is therefore the fundamental impulse and sense of life. People put it, some, you know, people who talk platitude, they always say, oh, everybody wants to be happy. Therefore, when that Shankaracharya came to India, from India, when talking, he said, everybody seeks happiness, which is very dilute way of putting the truth. No, not happiness. Delight. They don't, they're habituated to talk like that, so they talk loose. When you go to the analysis of the problem, you cannot make it, in terms of platitude. It's very difficult to talk truth in terms of platitude. People always want to be told that no, everyone wants to be happy. Then everyone says, yes, that is exactly what I want. Sri would say, no, don't try to be happy. You will never succeed. You will never succeed. If you want to be happy, then it means you are seeking the delight. Then delight is something self-existent. It is not happiness. Delight is universal. And that delight belongs to your true ultimate constitution. And you have to go back to your true constitution to get that delight. It is not simply for mere asking that it is available. It is a problem and it is to be sought. And there is a solution, there is a way and a method. Where is this delight in man? What is its star? In what instrument does it reside? We have seen that conscious force is life, supermind is mind. But where is this ananda or delight or bliss? Bliss exists in man in the form of his psychic being, the soul. Soul is an emanation of the delight of Satchidananda. And it therefore fundamentally always seeks delight and can get it because it is always universal when it gets back to its true experience or realization of self. Delight is the true self of man, not mind, life, or body. True human being is not a mental being. Mind is his instrument. True human being is not life being or vital force in man. True human being is not body or force that works in his physical being. True human being means in his ultimate truth is a psychic being who uses mind, life and body as his instrument and is himself a projection or a manifestation or emanation of the delight of Satchidananda. That is a true individuality. And this individuality also, most unfortunately, is divided into two in man. You see, now we come to man. You take up man. Take up the mind of man. This mind has two divisions. One in which is conscious of surface consciousness, where he is conscious, and some parts of which is not conscious, subconscious and subliminal. This man has got his vital being, life force or vital being. His very vital being is divided into two, surface vital and, subconscious vital or subliminal vital. Even his physical being or body is divided into two, conscious operation and subconscious operation. So you find a dichotomy in its even present ignorant constitution. The same thing happens in a psychic being.
I'm lost.
In his psychic being, there is a surface self. You see, mind, life, and body, each one has a conscious part and unconscious part, is it not? Yes. Mind and
Hey, I don't think you feel mine going round and round and round the other day. That's me today.
wait, mind will read.
That's your mind, Fluff.
Mind. Now look.
That's man.
Wait now. Mind, there is life, there is body. And then behind all that is the psychic being. So you put the psychic being here. You see, this psychic being is here also in the fourth part of man, because that is his true individuality behind it. This is his instrumental nature. Put man here more correctly, you see. Then in the mind there is a division. Mind is two. Surface conscious, subconscious and subliminal. Life is two. Body is two. And this being also when it comes here, projects one part in this ignorant and one part is kept behind. Here what comes is desire soul. This psychic being in ignorance becomes the desire soul.
I can start all over the other way.
So you get, you see, a division takes place in man. Now, mind is divided like that. Life is divided with outer life force or life being or life personality and inner involved in the same thing. This desire soul, which is a projection of the psychic being in ignorant nature. In this mind, life and body, psychic being projects itself. But when it projects itself, it is not able to act in its purity. It becomes desire soul. Means the delight it seeks is the delight through the operation of desire in mind, desire in vital, desire in body. It's seeking that delight, really speaking, but it becomes desire soul in ignorance. The problem for man is therefore to get back from the desired soul to the psychic being. Then he gets into universal delight. If he remains confined to this desired soul, he meets with the experience of happiness and suffering and pleasure and pain and a double experience of the delight. The delight itself comes to him in three forms: pleasure, pain, and neutral indifference. The very delight he feels in the desire soul in three forms, which are more than dual: pleasure, pain, and neutral indifference. That's all that the desire soul feels when it identifies with nature, comes and operates in nature, then it only has these three forms. When it withdraws from the desire soul and identifies with the psychic that is true self behind, then it opens to universal delight. Then all contacts are contact of delight. Then it opens to universal delight, the delight of the Satchidanand, really speaking.
What was the duality in life? I know that, and in the body.
Well, in the mind, there is a surface mind, ego, and so on, subliminal self. In the life, also an outer vital personality, an inner vital being, you can say a subliminal vital being. In the body, you have got the most outward physical body and inner physical consciousness, a subtle physical consciousness available to man. Body is not only gross. Body has got its own subtle consciousness. The level of matter is not only, that which is seized by our senses. Now, even science shows that you cannot see, atom with your eyes. You must have an instrument in order to see, and even then, what you see is not atom, but some operation of atom. Even then, you are not seeing our atom. You see, so there is a subtle physical body behind this gross physical body, which is physical and material, and not subtle, vital, or mental. You understand? There is a subtle level of body itself, not one. Sherno would say more than one.
And the desire?
Desire soul is the projection of the psychic being in this world of ignorance of mind, life, and body.
Oh, in all three.
In all the three, the desire soul is the emanation or projection of the psychic being. The soul trying to come and experience the universal delight. But because it is subjected to the operation of mind, life, and body and works under those conditions, it goes through the experience of pleasure, pain, and neutral indifference and not get at the delight. When it withdraws from the desire soul or gives up the desire soul and operates from behind where it is true, plain, or seat, well, then it opens to universal consciousness and universal delight. Then immediately the experience of each contact or each, what you call the impact of outside world is always an impact of delight. You see? That's it. That is the thing he is trying to say here. Now, this psychic being is veiled in our individuality, and it is very close to universality, as I was just telling you. In its surface action of desire soul, the universal delight only enters, but the universal delight is deformed, coming through desire, coming through mind, coming through ego. What it gets through desire is not something new, not something that is not the delight of Sachidananda, but only it comes through such a narrow and distorting medium that it gets the form of pleasure, pain, suffering, joy, all kinds of, that delight becomes like that there. So what the desire soul, which is a projection of the psychic being in the nature part, gets is not something wrong fundamentally. It gets something very right, but well, has it wrongly. That's all. Yes, it doesn't get the thing in its purity. It gets the thing in its mixture or in its impure state or distorted condition, and therefore doesn't experience what it should give. It experiences just something which is the working of his present limitation and distortion, pleasure, pain, and indifference. Otherwise, it would all the time feel the delight, which is the law of psychic beings experience. In the desire soul also, it's a universal delight that enters, but it is dwarfed and distorted and limited and subjected to, well, wrong forms or false forms. And it is the desire soul that distorts. To go to the true soul is the remedy out of this difficulty. Soul is the self's delegate, and self that is in man is the self of the world. Therefore, it always can open to universal delight. Reception of delight. This is called, this reception of delight is called rasa, enjoyment. You see? When you, rasa means enjoyment. You see? Sap, yes. Reception of this delight is determined by the subjectivity, by the condition in which you stand. If you stand on the level of ego and desire soul, you get pleasure, pain, and neutral indifference, and something which is differently rendered. And you feel that this delight is running through the whole gamut of inconscient, consciousness, and superconscient. It is running through the whole cosmic creation. You see, inconscient or subconscious, the conscient and superconscient, all is pervaded by the flow of this delight. Soul takes the joy of all experience when it retires or can identify itself with the psychic being. Desire soul is pressed by the subliminal soul to change. You can make a change in the desire soul by, well, going back into the divine psychic being that is behind. Soul can come to the surface, the psychic being. Then one experiences through mind, through life, and through body, equal and all embracing delight. Equal delight, all embracing delight. For example, man gets it even when he is not consciously in contact with the psychic being, but somehow unconsciously to him, the psychic being comes in front. Then man, even in his ignorant state, is able to experience this equal and all embracing delight. You see the case of lover of nature. A man is a lover of nature. You will see that in him the desire soul is pressed back, and the psychic that has come into front without his knowing, if he's really a lover of nature. You see, it's the psychic that has come in front, and all nature is then full of delight for him. The poet or the artist, you see, all the lover of nature. All contacts that come to him strike him first with the vibration of delight. There it is the operation of that psychic being which has come to the front temporarily. Very few artists can keep that personality all the time. If one can, then that would be a yogi, you see. Very few. They have always a vital personality, an egoistic being, a mental being, a selfish being, perhaps a very conventional being also. Many artists and poets are not angels, you understand? Yeah, many of their other parts are very common. But at the time of creation or when they rise to this plane where they feel this, well, then it is a psychic being that is in front because it's a perception of universal delight. Then it is not the individual that is at work, you see. It is the all contacts of nature are then felt as contact of the delight. Only in egoistic parts the delight is not felt. And this lower foundation of our nature has to be changed in order to make available the cosmic or universal delight. Psychic being is the flame of the Lord, inextinguishable flame. It is a witness that is concentrated. It is a control that is in us. It is a guide. It is the inner life. It is a divine voice, imperishable. And it is not the unborn self because the psychic being admits the working of itself in ignorance, and therefore psychic being is not the unborn self, but it is the self born in ignorance, embodying the delight, manifesting the delight. Further, we must take next time. Stop here. Yes, 23rd half.
Are you ever going to give the 3 parts of the film?
No, three parts of this. What is it?
You know that.
You made the same, sympathy and love are not the same as identity. Don't we identify ourselves with a thing or person or whatever it might be to?
Yes, yes, it's an imperfect operation of unity. When unity operates through mind or vital being, it takes the form of sympathy and this outer forms in which we see it working. But it is a mental form of it or form subject to our present limited consciousness. The real solution is the identity, unity of soul. Then you know what mere sympathy cannot make one know. Then you understand also what only the sympathy of the heart or mind is not able to give you. It is good. He doesn't say that it's not good to have sympathy. No, don't misunderstand. He doesn't say that there should be no sympathy. Only if one must not stop at sympathy, he says. Sympathy is the first step, but it's really by overpassing the mental formula that you will reach the truth of which sympathy is the symptom. Sympathy is a symptom indicating the possibility of identity, oneness. That's the point.
Has that something to do with the Taoism? That is unity with not entering into the identifying yourself with the subject or object that you're working with, mentally as well as emotionally.
I didn't catch your question.
So this identity, not love and sympathy alone, but to bear upon it. Is that
No, it is a soul realization of one soul in all, one being in all, which is divine, infinite. You begin with the cosmic. First realization that it is one in all. But then one will realize that it's not only one in all, but more than all. It is infinite.
well, you can only do that by faith.
No, it's a question of growing into consciousness. When the consciousness grows, then the consciousness has this concrete experience. It is not mind. Mind may have an idea of it. True, mind may have an idea. Heart may have a feeling. You see, even the will may have an operation to realize it. But they are only processes by which the consciousness will grow ultimately. And then it is a concrete experience of consciousness that one has to have. What he indicates is not only an idea, but a realization or a concrete experience. And concrete experience come to consciousness, not to only mental consciousness, you see, because the true consciousness is the psychic being. And the psychic is nearest to the universal. Therefore, the psychic automatically or easily expands into the cosmic consciousness and realizes oneness with all. And that oneness with all is so much more intense in its experience than sympathy and so on. You see, quite different. It can't be put in the same category as sympathy is a step, but identity is something else. And that unity brings about a vibration in life, in the individual, and in the atmosphere, which solves the problem of division and difficulty of man's conflict. People think that it's only sympathy can solve. Identity solves more than sympathy. When there is an inner identity, sympathy can go to the extent of extending help, material help or vital help or idea or emotional help. But identity and unity can help by eliminating the very cause of difficulty and suffering. People have no idea of the power of identity. Therefore, they think that nothing will be done. If a man is poor and you have no sympathy, no, it's not a question of having no sympathy. It is identity with it. When you are identical, you will first automatically reduce the incidence of his suffering. By your very identity, he will feel the pinch of his condition much less than he would have felt if you had not that identity. Quite different. And you can't do that by sympathy. That what you can do by identity, you can never attain by sympathy. You see, sympathy is good in its one way because it reduces one's own ego and makes one more unselfish and therefore expands oneself. But what identity can do, sympathy cannot do. Identity is dynamic. This identity is not merely a status, quietly identity and doing nothing. That identity helps the world, actually helps the world. People don't realize that's what they think that it's only the outer expression of sympathy that helps the world. This inner dynamic identity is something very powerful. It can set right a circumstance or a situation. If there is a will that this condition must change, well, the condition will change. That's all. There are many stories like that in Indian, mythology. See, Krishna had a friend who was very poor. There were two students, Sudama and Krishna, studying together. There are many dramas now done and short stories and cinema films also done of this subject. Now they studied together. Now Krishna was a realized soul and divine and incarnation of the Supreme. This Sudama was his friend, very poor, very rickety in body, and always but attached to Krishna because he loved Krishna. As a friend, not at all as divine. The two together studied and separated after school. So Krishna became king of Dwarka and a big man in Indian politics of his time. This Sudama was a poor fellow somewhere in a hut, living in a village and a little property and very poor condition and suffering all the time. So Sudama, he used to say to his wife always, "My friend, you don't know Krishna, great man. We were together. He's very great, but I was his student. We were together," and he was all the time flaunting his friendship with Krishna and telling her how wonderful the two friends were when they were studying. And they had a number of children, and they had no money and very poor, starving. So when the starvation point came, one day his wife got wild and told him, "Look here, don't talk nonsense. If your great friend is now a king of the Dwarka, go and get some money out of him." He says, "You are a fool. How can I go to a friend and ask money? I am not a small man. We are friends. I and he are equal. He may be a king, but he is my friend. I don't care." He said, "But you say that he's a good, generous friend." "Yes, but why? How can I take advantage of generosity of a friend? Friendship is impersonal, that's all. It has nothing to do with my poverty and his being a king." She got wild after 2 days and said, "You see, there is nothing to eat here and don't talk. You better go out and get some food or get some money. Go to your friend." And then at last he one day fell into subjective mood and said, "After all, she may be right, who knows? And Krishna may do something, but it's so bad to go to a friend and say, 'Give me money.' It's the last thing, to reducing myself to that. This is want of identity, you see." And so he said, "How can I ask him money?" and so on. "I don't ask. I won't ask." So he said, "You want me to go, but to go to a friend after 18 or 20 years, empty handed like a fool, it's not good. And we have nothing to carry." She went to some friend, neighbors and borrowed some, pounded rice which we fry in India. You see, and she brought this pounded rice and said, "Take this to Krishna and give it to him as something which you carried for him from here." And so he took that package and then he walked down to Dwarka, his capital. And then he announced and went to the gate. There was a gatekeeper. Nobody goes into king's house like that. Somebody said, "Who are you?" He looked so rickety and poorly, dressed. And so, "Get out." They said, "What's it?" "No, no, you tell him. I want to see him." "Ah, you can't see him." "No, no, you go and tell him I am Sudama." You tell him my name. So when then the beauty, the way in which the Indian, writer puts it is very beautiful. I mean, aesthetically wonderful. Krishna was surrounded by Rukshmini, his queens. You see, they were giving him bath, and just after bath, he was being looked after, and sandal paste and garlands and flowers and so on. And suddenly, this man brought a chit that Sudama has come. He left all of them and he ran. So they were all surprised. What a friend has come! Look, he has not even completed his toilet, and what friend must be this? He ran simply all the queens, three, four chief queens he had. So all of them four were discussing who is this friend. We never knew that this is somebody wonderful he must be. And then he went and at the gate, he embraced him and said, "Come along, come along. Why are you standing here? Come on." He brought him in the room, and all of them began to giggle. What a marvelous sample of beauty is what they say. Ugliest creature imaginable. The fellow is born sticking out and dark and ugly and dirty. And what is this dress? And what a laugh! Yes, they all laugh. But because Krishna was there, they all suppressed giggling all the time. And then when he came and he made him sit down, and he said that no. How you fared all the time? They began to talk and they were listening, the ladies, you see. And then he said, "Oh, you see, after school, where did you go? We were studying together with that rishi in the ashram. You remember? We went to go together to cut wood for the sacrifice. And you did not cut wood." Sudama used to tell him, "I used to cut your share." He said, "Yes, I know, you are so kind. And I remember very well. And then what happened to you?" He said, "I went to village and you see, I am not very well off. But it's all right. Life is like that. One takes life as it comes and so on." "So you are married?" He said, "Yes, I am married." "Oh, well, then where is your wife? Why didn't you bring your wife?" He said, "No, she is long way off." "Your children?" He said, "Yes, I have plenty of children, but oh, no, difficult to bring all of them here." "Oh, then you didn't bring anything for me?" And, and Sudama was trying to know. "You must have brought. I know. You see, your wife, Babi means we say. You see, that's a name, special name for her. She must have given you something." And he was hiding it like that. You see. So Krishna said, "No, no, let me see." And he took it by force. "What? You brought this thing and you are hiding." It was only poor rice, you see, and fried rice, nothing else. And he said, "Oh, wonderful, how nice." He took one mouthful and said, "Oh, it's very sweet, wonderful. How she is a very good cook." And he took second. When he was taking third, Rukmini rushed, his chief queen, and said, "Now we have given enough." Because she knew that it's not this eating. He's not only eating. "You have given enough." I said, "Don't take the third. Now we shall take the third. You won't take the third." So Krishna stopped a little and then made Sudama, "You're not taken bath. Come along." So he said, "Let us go to bathroom." And he gave him bath himself. The ladies were all staggered. What is this man and what is this? Krishna is giving bath to his friend and this poor fellow. And they gave him new set of clothes and said, "You see, you come again another time, we shall live again," and so on. After 2 days, they left the place and went away. And when going, he said, "The friend, I forgot to ask." But he himself didn't volunteer to give anything. You see, I didn't say about my poverty, nothing of the kind. And how can I belittle myself before a friend, say I am very poor, therefore give me something? But he should have thought, he has seen me that I am not in very good condition. He should have given me some money. He didn't give me anything. When he went home, he couldn't recognize his house. He came and said, "Where is my hut?" "It is a palace. The servant palace, plenty and lights and notes." He said, "Somebody's house." And suddenly he was walking, he think, oh, I think something has happened, earthquake or some destruction, and somebody has come and built a new house. Suddenly his wife rushed out and said, what is this? Come along. Come. What? Plenty. See Krishna. Say, well, no, he gave me nothing. Said, what? You don't know. The miracle happened. Everything changed overnight. The operation of unity. I'm talking of that unity. That this action takes place on the basis of fundamental unity of consciousness, not out of sympathy. It is that unity which wills that certain circumstances be set right. Well, because the consciousness is a true consciousness, it operates. The meaning of it is not a miracle, but meaning of it is that unity of consciousness realized can become very effective in life. That's all. Unity is more effective than outer sympathy. Krishna showed no sympathy. He took the away and he, on the contrary, argued that, you see, he took away the little thing that I had got and gave me nothing in return. When he came back, then he felt very sorry and wept to his wife that, you see, I was unjust. Even when I coming back on the road, I was thinking that he gave me nothing. But you see, he is the Lord and he is the divine. He is not only my friend. Then he felt that it was the divine that was his friend and not the human Krishna person whom he had met. You see, it's very difficult to recognize the divine when it is taken away human body. You see. Mythology is full of it like that, Indian mythology. So many stories. This for popularizing a spiritual truth. Generally, it guards the spiritual truth in a popular story.
Question, Purani. On this ascent into universal consciousness
Yeah.
that you so well described on the board.
Delight, yes.
Yes, well,
Life
a light
into
its
gradually
ascent.
increasing ascent of seeking delight. Yes,
Of course,
right.
the other night you mentioned also the opposite of that.
Yes,
The duality, even within that rise,
yes, yes.
there is a force within that opposite. Is that right? Into its ascent, there must be also an opposite.
No, that is the descent has taken place from the infinite. And the ascent is from matter to spirit again. You see, you have to take a double line of ladder. If you want to understand it clearly, you will take a double line of ascent. You see, you have to imagine a sort of an infinity first. And from that, there is a line of descent. And that line of descent takes the form of a ladder. It is not plumb down drop like that, taking a plunge. No, it is as it were, and then a plunge.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, and a plunge. This is inconscious, if you like, or anti-conscious. Inconscious, you see, this is inconscious. Then in this same, to this same, there is, to our view, a rising ladder. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is like that, this is like that, you see.
Yes.
Now this is from inconscious again to matter, life, mind and supermind. This is the rising ladder, this is the descending ladder. From Satchidanand to matter or inconscious, from inconscious back to the Satchidananda, manifesting here a world of truth.
Was your question that was it a duality? This
A duality and we could refer to as a dark force or a negative force against the individual's rise into this awareness.
No, in the Satchidananda itself, you can say that here matter and spirit. You see, if you put it this way, this end will be spirit, this end will be matter. Now there is also a current going this way.
Yeah, duality.
So that in the spirit, the matter is involved, in matter, spirit is involved. Because matter is involved there, that ladder takes place.
Yeah.
Because spirit is involved, this ladder takes place. For the dynamic, the ladder is necessary. You cannot put a static, representation to represent something dynamic.
Continuum.
Yes, yes.
In the Old Testament, Bible, the story of Jacob. and who tricked his brother's inheritance, you see. And that was a terrible thing to do. So he was sent off into the wilderness. And he was expelled from his home and his household, every right he had, because he stole him, he thought his birthright. And so he found himself absolutely alone and a sinner and an outcast. So he built an altar and he gathered what stones he could and he said, if you will be my God, then I will be your servant. I will serve you. And he lay down and he had a pillow of stone. So he had a beautiful dream, which I think he didn't deserve, but it was very handy that he did have it. And he saw the angels of God ascending and descending. He saw the angels of God descending and ascending, which makes me think that probably, well, he unconsciously, he went through a great deal of this experience because he must have had a very magnificent ego.
Probably. Perhaps in Tantric Yoga also have an experience of descent of power. In the Tantric sadhana, the descent of power is a common experience. Even in the Jnana Yoga, means knowledge, yoga of knowledge also, there is a descent of the higher consciousness. It may descend as light, it may descend as energy or power. The descent can take place even as delight. So the descent also can be, you can call it specialized, so to say. If one has only asked for knowledge, naturally the descent of knowledge only takes place. He has aspired and opened himself only to the aspect of power, then probably the power current only comes. What he says that is you must leave it entirely to the higher consciousness to decide. And you must keep all the instruments of your nature open for perfection and open for operation for the higher consciousness, including your body. Because body also is a form and a field for expression of the highest reality. Therefore, perfection of the body is not to be left out in a scheme of spiritual perfection. Body has to participate in the scheme of perfection. Only you don't give too much importance to the body and start with the body. But body is not to be neglected.
No.
That's it. Body, nervous system, vital being, emotional being, mental being, and all the ranges above the mind. You see, all that can participate and should participate in a scheme of perfection. That is Sri Aurobindo's stand. And so when the descent is taking place, well, all the steps of the descent have to be covered in ascent. And all those that have now been embodied by men, the material part, the vital part, and the mental part, all must participate in the perfection. That's the point.
Now, don't you, do you think that there are some beings that can actually witness all this? They
Oh,
know,
yes.
they can see, and they have an intuitive understanding of what's happening, but I don't think most of us do.
No, there have been sadhana you can open. Many people have seen this thing. Many people, I know about several dozens of them who have seen these things. This is not in merely abstraction, no. This is the play of forces. And people who have sadhana and are opening here of the eye, there is an eye here, there is subtle eye. When that opens, you are able to see. You need not want to see unless it is necessary for you to see. The development itself will give the sight, you see. Then you can see from here. Yes. Perhaps some part of it, yes. Some part of it out. We are through 1/3 or 2/3 of the chapter, 1/3 is left out.
Very, very powerfully subjected himself to the witness so that he could
Oh, yes.
many and many times
Oh, yes.
witness this and experience it deeply the following year with more of it quantity. He said for 4 years.
Yes. It is the experience which he organizes in terms of mind so that others who have an aptitude or an aspiration can feel a conviction in mind and pursue the road, pursue the path.
Well, he said he didn't have any need of the supramental himself.
Yes, because of the earth consciousness.
He didn't even need it.
you can't accommodate yourself to the working, then it's better to take slowly and take rest and to go slow. There are some people who have a good attitude and they get in, all right. But if there is some part which is to be worked or raw or requires to be prepared, then it's better to go slow. Other thing, really speaking, spiritual life is not exhausting at all.
Yeah.
On the contrary, it may sets you right more often than not.